Are you guys recording it?
Yeah.
Oh God, you got apologies.
So.
You ready to start confident? Hurry up to start.
Him hella fast. Just bump him, bruh.
Like, you like bump him?
Yeah, just bump him. Go like 15, 20.
We were making a choice to end that video right before 63-year-old Scott Habermehl was hit by those suspects on his way to work in New Mexico. This happened last May, and sadly, Habermehl died because of this incident. Police have now arrested a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and that 11-year-old in connection to the crime. The 11-year-old, believe it or not, has a long rap sheet. He's only 11. Back in 2024, he was a suspect in stealing electric doorbells from homes. An individual later identified as the suspect back stolen vehicles into a store, and several other individuals enter. In May, you got this vehicle crash. This is just horrific. June, he was a suspect in a shooting, which a teen told police he was shot in the hand by a friend. Yeah, he's just, oh my gosh, he's 11. 11. Had an outstanding warrant. I don't even know what to say. All three boys are charged with murder. We're asking this morning, is 11 too young? I mean, that might be a real special 11-year-old right there with that rap sheet, but 11, I mean, just think of that. This is hard to even comprehend. I have two tremendous attorney guests on the show today. I want to bring them in now and have them weigh in. Michael J. Brown and John Phillips are here. High profile, heavy hitters. 11 years old. Okay, is that too young? We're starting with that question. Michael J. Brown, to you first, please.
Good morning, everyone. Most states, and I think all states in our union, probably say yes, it is too young to be charged with murder. And in this particular case, I don't think he actually is charged with murder. But on a personal level, and being in the system for so long, and seeing how things have gone since I was a young prosecutor, I do think that an 11-year-old should be held accountable. But with the caveat, Julie, that, you know what, maybe the sentencing obviously would be much different than an adult situation. If a 40-year-old is convicted of a murder, obviously you can do life without parole. And in this particular case, I think in New Mexico, they actually have the death penalty. So in terms of a sentencing parameter, I certainly think an 11-year-old should be treated differently. But to give him a pass, and you know, this is a classic case when they can formulate that intent. You look at the video, you see their actions. They shouldn't get a pass because of their age. This is not, well, I should say 11-year-olds are different from one to the other. This 11-year-old is not an infant 11-year-old. So, yeah, I think it should be something that should be prosecuted.
Yes, yes, I'm with you, Michael. John Phillips, to you next, please. Your thoughts on this kid.
I agree with Michael. You know, we're in a weird, horrible spot where the limitations of justice are facing, you know, kind of, it's one thing for the streets to raise the kid. Now we have the internet raising kids, and radicalizing kids, and we have kind of this Grand Theft Auto culture, which this is a scene out of almost a video game where you can kind of do whatever you want and cause whatever harm. But these, you know, this 11, 13, and 15-year-old are already career criminals. And so the justice system has to be able to hold them accountable. And frankly, I want to see them round their parents up and hold them accountable, you know, to the extent that's possible, because this is just, it's immoral, it's depraved, it's everything wrong, you know, with where we're headed in some ways in America.
Yeah, great points, great points. John, you made me think, and you do civil work. Tell me, is a civil suit possible here, in your opinion?
It certainly is. The car was stolen, so, you know, from that standpoint, you've got a 13-year-old operating without a driver's license in a stolen vehicle. And you know, excuse me for being a pessimist, but I really doubt his parents are properly insured. So, you know, it's one of those cases you've just got to go, you know, for purposes of justice sake, you might find some insurance, but like, you know, in some of these cases, you'd go after the person whose car was stolen for leaving their car in a place where it could get stolen. That's not what we do. You know, that really didn't help justice. It just moves money around, you know, but we have a $495 million jury verdict against an uninsured murderer who's sitting in jail because you've got to hold them responsible. You've got to teach others that this is not okay. So certainly there's a civil remedy, but it'll be difficult to recover.
John, thank you so much for letting me put you on the spot for that. Appreciate it. Let's talk about intentionality now, please. I want to show you both another look at that video. Listen carefully to what the suspects are saying right before that fatal moment.
You ready to start confident? Hurry up and start.
Him hella fast. Just bump him, bruh.
Just bump him?
Yeah, just bump him. Go like 15, 20.
Just bump him, bro. Just bump him. That's what they're saying. This is disgusting. You know, police believe these three suspects intentionally crashed that stolen car into Mr. Habermehl. And investigators say that the case likely would have gone unresolved had it not been for them being so bold to post it on social media. Yeah, I guess they thought it was funny. Now, as we listen back to that video, we're asking, how much does intent matter, right? You hear them use the language, just bump him, bro. But they killed him. They killed him, is what police detectives have found here. John, let me start with you this time. Intentionality. Does it matter?
It does matter. You know, so there's two types of intent here. There's the intent to cause harm, bump him, bro. Like there was an intent to inflict reckless, extreme endangerment, you know, the second-degree murder kind of stuff. And then there's the intent to kill. And, you know, somebody's going to say, well, they didn't intend to kill him. But this is why 11 and 13-year-olds don't have driver's licenses. They have poor judgment. These kids had extremely poor judgment and a history of it. But, you know, that's why they've charged conspiracy here, because the three were all going along with this intent to you know, hit a person on a bicycle flush, not even like just kind of tap. With a gun, you know, with a gun in his hand. So, you know, while there's probably no intent to kill, I think it's right at that line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're there. They've got the murder charge. Michael J. Brown, you know, having been on both sides of criminal court, you're serving as a prosecutor and then doing criminal defense work in the private sector. Curious, is there any hope for these guys when it comes to a defense because of what they were saying in that video, or does it just make it worse? What do you think?
Well, here's the thing. If they go under an intentional theory, as John just described, I think that's the weaker of their theories. New Mexico, as New York does, as most states do, they have what's called a depraved indifference subsection under a murder statute. I don't think this was an intentional murder in the sense that, hey, we wanted to kill this individual. But the depraved indifference, to me, is a much better theory to go on as a prosecutor. And that's really where you have this unjustifiable risk. You basically couldn't care less about human life. You're not meaning to kill. But, hey, look, by what your actions did, it's going to result in death. And that's exactly what happened here. So if the prosecutor went with the intentional theory, I think that's going to be the weaker theory, and that's more defendable as opposed to the depraved indifference.
Mm-hmm. This is interesting. Michael, tell me, as a quick follow-up for you, please, if you were representing this 11-year-old, what would you do with him? How would you approach the court with him?
I probably, and I don't know anything about the case, but my initial reaction is this is a very troubled kid with probably no parenting, no role models, no mentors. He was doomed from the beginning, and I would try to build up as much as I can up to this point in life. Not an excuse, but there's some mitigation, and then there's some sympathy saying he had no direction. He's only 11 years old. Let's treat him as such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, great points. I appreciate you and John are so awesome. Let me put you guys on the spot with these questions come into my head as I'm talking with you both. So Michael J. Brown, John Phillips, stand by kindly, please.